right. Very pleased now to bring on another special guest, and pleased to know his girlfriend, someone who is a friend of mine, someone who is a talented actress, and just someone who was very active here in the New Orleans community here when we were making lots of films here. Then, of course, they changed the tax credits and she moved to Georgia, where I think they've been booming as far as their film industry there. And she told me about someone that I should have on this program who is running for an important position in the great state of Georgia. And we're very pleased to welcome John Chan, who is joining us. He's running in the 97th district in Georgia for the Georgia House, and we need a whole new crew up there in Georgia. And John, congratulations on running. Thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. And yeah, you're right. Back when Deanna and I lived here in New Orleans, we were pretty active. And great to be here.
Well, yeah, and now things have certainly boomed in Georgia as far as film and video, right? I mean, that industry's doing well, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's doing great.
Good. Well, it's great to connect with you, and I'm so glad Deanna told me about you. And tell us why you decided to run, John.
Well, it's actually really interesting. I never in a million years thought I would run for political office, but you just see what's happening in the United States today, not Georgia, but all over. You've got what? Spiraling inflation, prices just going to the moon, food prices. You've got supply chain issues. You've got women and men's sports. You've got disgusting sexual education being indoctrinated into 8 and 10-year-old kids or sometimes even younger. You've got so many issues at hand that I just kind of feel like regular citizens need to step up, and they need to run for city council or the school board or state representation or anything else.
Well, I'm wondering what in the world is going on in Georgia with your elections and the machines there, the Secretary of State. I'm sorry, John, I don't trust any of the election results in Georgia.
I totally understand. I just met somebody over the weekend. She's actually running for a county commissioner because she was actually working at the warehouse for ballot counting during the 2020 election. And she said there was no security. You just drive in, drive out. She said, I could have just taken 200 ballots and left with them and brought 200 in, and nobody would know or care. So she reported it, and then she said she didn't hear anything back. And then during the election, she said there were guys printing up what she thought were sample ballots. And sample ballots are those ballots that they look a little bit different, but they show you basically how to vote. And she thought it was really odd. She's like, why are they printing sample ballots the evening of the election? That makes no sense. All the sample ballots should have already been set up. And she went to look at them, and she's like, wait, these are real ballots. And so she said the head guy from Dominion abruptly left when she went up to see what they were doing. And they said that they were sample ballots. And she said, well, wait, we don't need any sample ballots. And these aren't samples. And they're like, oh, yeah, don't worry about it. And so she reported it to the supervisor, who did nothing. She reported it to the supervisor, all the way up, 3 supervisors. Nobody would comment. And then so she's like, I'm just going to take it straight to the Secretary of State. So she took it to Raffensperger, and it was strange. She heard nothing back. So she went to testify at the Senate hearing. And so she's testifying, and they muted her. She couldn't talk. So then, after the Senate hearing, they fire her.
Wow.
And
Mm.
so she's up in arms. So she's been contacting Raffensperger's office, and basically their stance is we can't comment on that because it's an active investigation still 2 years later. So she's decided to run for office and run for commissioner where she can have control over that. But that's just one of the
Good.
many stories.
Well, yeah, we need people like you, people like her. We need newcomers to get in there and shake things up and change things. It's a shame. Ravensburger won his primary. Kemp won his primary. So now I guess they're taking on Democrats, and you got to hold your nose and I guess vote for the Rhino. I mean, it's a really bad situation. Tell us about your race, John. Tell us about your district. It looks like you represent some areas that I know well. Duluth, Norcross, some other areas. Tell us more if you could.
Yeah, so it's a flat little strip that includes Norcross, Peachtree Corners, Berkeley Lake, and Duluth. And that area is a strip that has a lot of apartment complexes. So before I ran, the people that I talked to told me why. Well, I actually registered on the very last day, almost at the very last hour. And the reason why I pulled the trigger was I found out there was nobody running on the Republican ticket. So the reason why is that most Republicans deem that district unwinnable because it's so heavily Democrat. It's like 65-35 roughly.
Whoa.
But the interesting thing is that in recent polling, and I'm going back to 2020, it was 65-35. But in recent polling, it looks like it's more like 55-45. So it's not a total disadvantage. And I think that there's a lot of things that I bring to the table that are really unparalleled compared to anybody I'd be running against. And what I mean by that is
you won the Republican nomination just by being the only Republican in there, right? You didn't even have to have a Republican primary. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct. So I ran
and who is your
unopposed.
opponent on the Democrat side? The incumbent?
No, the lines were redistricted, so there's no incumbent. So I'm running against a woman named Rua something. She was the communications director for an organization called CAIR or CAIR, CAIR. It's Council for American Islamic Relations, I believe. So,
well, one of the guests that I have on my program regularly, Chris Holton of the Center for Security Policy, says that organization has ties to terrorism.
Well, I don't know a lot about it. I did see that somewhere, and I don't know her, so I can't really comment. But I mean, the thing of it is that the things that she stands for are basically bailouts, handouts, and whatnot. And I stand for the American people. I stand for controlling income taxes and lowering taxes so that the American citizen can benefit from his own hard work and not give it away to illegals or people that aren't working, et cetera. And it's gotten really bad. And I don't go along with this whole thing of defunding the police and all of that. I think we should fully fund the police so that we have security, so that we don't have to worry about things when we go out in public and go shopping. And, I've always thought that we lived in a great neighborhood, but right around the corner where I've actually gotten gas, there was a murder in broad daylight. A guy was getting air in his tire, and these guys hopped up to his car and tried to carjack it. And when he got up to try and stop them, they murdered him in broad daylight. 3 in the
So
afternoon.
crime is escalating in your area, John?
Absolutely. Crime is really escalating in our area. I mean, if you just look at Atlanta Metro, Atlanta Metro now has a higher crime rate per capita than Chicago. And it's
Wow.
gone wild because of the policies that have been put forth. Our former mayor in Atlanta was saying that she doesn't really believe in incarceration.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Sounds
when
like
people
our
are
sounds like our leaders down here. Sounds like what we've been dealing with in New Orleans.
yeah.
And it's a lot of these urban areas, John. San Francisco and LA and New York and Seattle and Portland and Detroit. I mean, it's just all over the country in Democrat-run cities. Their criminal justice system is dysfunctional. The politicians don't believe in incarceration. You've got criminals running amok. There seems to be very little concern for victims. We just had our mayor go to a courtroom and sit with a criminal defendant and his family and ignore the victims of his carjackings. So,
Yeah, it's gone crazy. These Democrat-run cities, the crime has gone rampant. And if you look at what's happened, say in Miami, recently the mayor got elected, and crime has gone down to like a low for I don't even know the statistics, but it's the statistics of what has happened in Miami compared to what's happened in a lot of these Democrat-run cities is
night and day.
amazing. It's astonishing.
Yeah. John Chan with us. He is a candidate for Georgia's State House. It's District 97. The election is coming up on November the 8th, running against a far-left Democrat. And is the Republican Party, John, helping you? I mean, do you have some bigwig Republicans in that area stepping forward to lend you a hand?
I've gotten a little bit of help, but so far I've self-funded a lot of my campaign. I'm kind of an unknown, and like I said, I kind of jumped in there at the last second because I actually travel a lot for our business. In fact, I'm in New Orleans right now. So yeah, it's kind of like it's a little bit tough because I'm an unknown quantity. But I've done so many things on the business side and working with other different groups and organizations and help them so much. I feel like I've got a really good grasp on how to help Georgia do much better and not waste so much money and help their citizens feel safer.
All right, John, we have about a minute, and I'd like you to give our listeners out there some information about how they can help your campaign or learn more. Where can they go?
Okay, so my website is www.johnchanforga.com, and there's a donate button on there, or you can read all about me. You can contact us that way. We'd love to hear from you.
And that's John Chan, the number 4ga.com.
Yeah.
And make sure, Brian, that we post that on our podcast page. And John, keep in touch. Tell Deanna I said hello. And I'm excited to see she's your campaign manager. So you're in good hands there.
Yeah, she's done great.
And I like your site, and I like the fact you're giving the voters in your district a choice. If you wouldn't have run, they wouldn't have that choice. So thank you for doing that, and we'll keep in touch with you. John Chan with us. We got to roll. Quick time out. We'll be back.